I'm at an undisclosed location, hunting for an elusive creature. Catch a glimpse of him right there, Mr. Ken Smith. So, just want to briefly talk a little bit about ourselves, which we don't do very well because well, Ken's on here is very humble and
yes.
I don't think either one of us really like to put ourselves out there on the internet all that much. We sort of do it sparingly, and almost because there's a duty to Make Fishing Haiku for us to promote it, but it doesn't come very naturally, I don't think, to either one of us to be the leaders. But just so you understand where we're coming from. So Ken-san is the leader of Make Fishing Haiku in California.
Yes.
And I am the leader of Make Fishing Haiku in Arizona. And fortunately, being states that are side by side, hopefully this means that from here on out we'll have a lot closer connection and be able to build up relationships here in the Southwest and hopefully across the U.S. I know William and I have talked quite a bit.
Oh yes, I've spoken to William quite a bit. Wonderful fellow.
And Lewis, we're interested in chatting with you as well, and I think
yes.
Ken's met with you.
Oh, another wonderful fellow. I've been blessed to have met many people in the Make Fishing Haiku that are just very, very genuine people at heart.
So that's just a brief introduction, so you know where we're coming from, and we don't want to speak with the authority of all of America or Make Fishing Haiku in general. There's one sensei, and that's Soke. Soke is the boss. So these are just some perspectives that we're going to share with you throughout our video, or depending on where I cut this into the video, this may be our ending.
If so, hope you enjoyed.
Yes, thank you.
I'll do a few more steps.
All right, Ken-san, so I've asked him to explain. So he's got these markings on the floor. So he's got this tape here. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. So each marking is roughly 1 ken, or a little over 6 feet away from the target. So this is 1 ken, and then we have 1.5 ken, 2 ken. Now, a ken is the length of a tatami mat, usually. And Soke describes this as the distance where you're just out of reach of a swordsman's cut. So standing here, don't let your foot pass over that 1 ken mark, because you're no longer throwing at 1 ken. So you'll stand back a little bit, and you'll step, deliver your shot while keeping your toes right up or right behind the 1 ken mark. Then you have 1 ken, 1.5, 2 ken. Of course, the further you are back, the further you are from the danger from your opponent. And we have a distance exercise where we will start at 1 ken, throw shuriken, take a step back, throw shuriken, take a step back. And you will gradually increase the distance in which you can reliably strike the target. But I believe I was mentioning how we often refer to shuriken jutsu as throwing the shuriken.
Oh yes. Yes. Please talk about that.
Well, we often mistakenly use the term throw. We're throwing the shuriken, and that gives us an idea of the strong arming, hurling the shuriken at the target. But the truth of the matter is we're actually casting the shuriken. We're casting and striking and putting our intent behind the blade. So when a shuriken is leaving the hand, we're not necessarily with the shoulder throwing it like a baseball pitch, but we're casting the shuriken out. We're allowing it to fly through the fingers and brush and guide along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the true control that we're looking for. So when I get a lot of new students and they come in, and they're always hammer arming, just throwing as hard as they can, and they may get some to stick, but that's a false positive.
He's referring to me here, by the way.
Right, son. Very good. Very good. Very powerful. He's a strong guy.
It's funny because when I was in Japan, and of course when I was a beginner, and I had a lot of power. We were talking earlier about being in Osaka, and the Osaka dojo at the time, so they've changed locations since I was there, but inside the dojo there were tatami mats on the walls, and brand new tatami are like hard as a rock. They're like concrete. And so you need some power to penetrate the target, and so beginning Meifushi Kagyu there was a little bit like learning backwards to what we were talking about, learning the reverse of how you really should learn Meifushi Kagyu. And so I was all power all the time, and so I would get a lot of comments from those in the dojo like, "Oh, sugoi, sugoi," which means great, and "Oh, sugoi power," and I took that as a compliment. But looking back now, like Japanese are very subtle sometimes in the way that they're trying to correct you with things. And looking at it now, so I appreciate Ken-san being very direct with me, that saying, "Ryan, you suck."
No.
So
I was like, Ryan, your shots are very good. You have a lot of power. But let's try this.
Let's try another way. Let's try a way that's better. So the Japanese would tell me though, like, "Oh, sugoi," but looking back now, I understand that was a hint on that I should have paid attention to, but as an American, not having that direct instruction to say, really you should tone it down, and this is what we want you to work on. That would have been helpful at the time, but the Japanese don't approach you the same sort of way. So I'm sort of learning it in the reverse way as
That's one of the
Ken.
yeah, that's one of the advantages I really had learning from Danny Fletcher, is he broke down that language barrier for me. He did the hard work. He trained and understood countless hours of footage he ended up sending me of just raw footage of training in Japan. And, you know, I don't know the language. I can't understand what they're saying. And, you know, Danny didn't speak the language, well, not fluently. But he was very, 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 very dedicated. And he broke down that barrier. So when I was learning through Danny, I had the privilege, I had the honor of receiving not only Danny's wisdom, but Soke's wisdom in a digestible format for a Westerner. So when I first started throwing, learning with Danny, you know, my throws were powerful, you know, strong arming as we do when we're young and brash and
even not so young.
So when I was throwing, I had the power, and Danny, you know, Danny told me, he's like, Ken, you're young, you have the power. He's like, but let's focus on the technique. And he would show me, and I show my students now this today, where I throw the shuriken extremely soft, extremely slow, but I can still strike with power, even with a slow shot, a slow casting of the shuriken. And that's form and technique over muscle. Mm-hmm. Now, when you have to penetrate a hard target, you have to implement the power. But Danny always told me the power will come with training, that you don't need to force it. As you progress, you will naturally develop the strength. You will naturally develop the muscles. Have you ever thrown for a long, you know, just long day of training, and you're really hammering it out, and then your muscles are sore right here?
Yes.
Well,
so this is something we were talking about earlier. Is in Osaka, the training used to go from 1 o'clock until 6 p.m. So 5 hours of training. So yes, I would be sore after training. And on the days when Soke would come to Osaka, I think we actually started at noon, so we would have a full 6 hours of training. Now, someone at some point would usually go around and go get some obento lunches for everyone, and we would eat there in the dojo. But yeah, we'd have 5 or 6 hours straight of training, and it was a very exhausting day. So yes.
But that's good, because what you're doing is you're strengthening and developing those muscles that you utilize in the brushing technique in the Meishu Kagyu. So you're already training those muscles through your form, through your practice, through your shomanuchi. So you don't have to put so much strength and force behind it, especially in the beginning, especially when you're just practicing on, say, foam mats, and you're developing your accuracy, you're developing your control over the blade. Like, have you ever thrown in not formal angles, or what's the word I'm looking for? Improper angles?
Improper angles. I don't know.
So like,
I feel like I'm always at an improper angle.
you're much better than you let on. You talk yourself down so that when you perform, you're like, whoa.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's a lot of times, like when I train with people I haven't trained before, I kind of fool around a little bit more at first.
You pool shark them.
kind of, you know, because I sort of want to like
Feel them out.
feel people out, and like if you treat me lesser
Because you think I'm not as good.
because I'm not as good, then you know, then I'm just gonna be like
you're not worth the time.
you're not worth the time, exactly.
Yeah, it's a very interesting strategy, actually.
I mean, because really, the lowest person in your dojo should feel just as comfortable as the top.
Exactly.
In my opinion. So
exactly.
So that's my opinion. So if I throw like crap for a day and you're like, I'm like, all right, I don't need to talk to that guy. then all right, I don't need to talk to you.
You're not the kind of person I want in my dojo.
Exactly.
Oh, like from an odd angle, from somewhere that you would not normally throw in kata or in shamanuchi or whatever. Just something as an exercise, because we may not always have that perfect angle in a real life situation. So something like this, where you're throwing. This is weird.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't normally stand here, but maybe you draw your shuriken and you're in this position. You're in kamai, and you have to come in.
Yeah.
And throw. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I do that really. I think I may do some things that are probably not standard. For sure.
But to experiment, right?
Yeah. So like a good example I always use is like this.
The hoko no kamai.
Yeah. So where I'm just like, okay, just throwing right from there.
Well, that's the thing is you should practice to throw from all kamai that you utilize in your martial arts.
Right. Yeah.
So if you've got your jumonji, right? Well, obviously that's
Yeah.
You got your hoko, quick, so you can snap. You can come under hicho and down into.
Right.
You should be able to, whatever martial art you study, you should be. This is of course separate from Meifu Shinkaku.
Right.
Be able to utilize the skills that you've gathered.
Yeah. These are not Meifu Shinkaku skills in
No,
particular.
no.
This is us just chopping it up here.
Okay, like, what are they doing? You ever do that?
So, yeah, I don't really throw from like the odd angles, but I do throw like, I mean, there are probably some things I do odd. Like I really like the side throw quite a bit.
Oh, is it where you're literally standing here inside?
Like, just stand like I'm like looking over here, and then that way,
Yeah.
Because I feel like that gets my rotational power that I like to normally throw from.
Yeah, I do that too. I also do from the back.
Yeah.
So you do from the side, throw, from the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As those are good to practice, especially one that I like is if I have, I have my sword here, right? And turn off, throw. Grab 2 random shuriken, let's see. Catch that miss?
Like, I just wanted to capture that I actually stuck something. Although, if we listen to Samaya Sensei, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
If you're going to throw like that, you might as well stand in this area.
This throw, that's Chishinagi.
From here.
Yeah, but there's actually no step. It's just rock, and then you would draw your sword.
Okay.
So you can see. This is one Danny showed me. Danny's like, he was telling me you have to be able to disguise your technique in your kamae, or you need to be able to disguise your technique in your form. He's like, we typically stand like this. He's like, well, if I told you from this position, yakuuchi.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he's like, yakuuchi. And I was like, yakuuchi. So that's a very disguised.
So are you just you're throwing it this way, or are you throwing palm towards the target? How's your
Kind of going up this way.
You do a commercial. Come take Ken's masterclass.
$49.95.
Only $49.95.
20-minute lesson.
Guaranteed to improve your skills or your money back. So yeah. So you stand like this as typical position.
Just going out from underneath this way.
Hey.
Ooh, I feel like I'm like my arm doesn't know how to move on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel stupid with it.
Well, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like project your momentum forward. Yes. Project your momentum forward into the shot. Also, notice where my hands release.
Well, I was actually going to say that when watching you do it from this side, I noticed, for me, it's almost like drawing a sword out. And so that makes it actually a little bit easier for me, because when I do this, I'm like, that doesn't feel like right. But when I do this, I feel like it's more of like a drawing a sword.
That's exactly. So, have you seen when I do my sword draw and I come to this position?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same exact movement that I use to throw the shuriken.
Okay, it makes more sense now.
So, well, in a lot of traditional Koryu, we have this large kind of you can generate a lot of power. I'm not throwing hard, but
yeah,
you can generate a lot of power from that. So you start looking at that from different angles. How might I throw from these odd angles if I'm forced to do so? And it's a really great exercise because it breaks you out of that mindset of just standing in one position, facing the target. In real life situations, they flow. They flow like a river. Yeah.
So, so I think like when I try to teach my daughter, like I'll have her just stand there and just do this.
Yeah.
And just with a straight arm and not.
Some Ryuha just literally throw like that.
Yeah.
That's just literally their throw.
Yeah. It's a good way, I think, to learn it, you know, and understand that you can grow from there.
Yeah. I think it's an evolution to smaller and smaller and smaller movement.
Yeah.
But we should not also neglect these larger, awkward angles because they are still viable. If you go from this to this, you've condensed it. It's a little quicker. It's a little harder to see. But that doesn't mean that there's not still value in a larger.
Right.
Using smaller kind of movements, like doesn't mean that this isn't still effective and powerful.
Sure.
interesting set of shuriken here are what we would call the Meifushin Kaguryu Dai shuriken, or large shuriken, heavy bow shuriken.
Sorry, I'm gonna pause for just a second here. Sorry, that was us trying to figure out the lighting here for the videos. Okay, sorry, and it's nighttime here at our undisclosed location too, by the way. So
Now these type of larger bow shuriken, Meifushin Kaguryu style shuriken, were favored by Danny Fletcher in the early days of his training. Soke noticed Danny's very large hands, and Danny had a harder time throwing the smaller shuriken due to his larger Western stature. So Danny utilized these larger types of Meifushin Kaguryu shuriken. Larger and a little longer than the standard MSR shuriken.
you can see the difference there.
And if we actually compare these to what's considered the more standard Meifushin Kaguryu style, these are both. This is also Danny's. He preferred a little bit of a longer shuriken. This is more of a standard MSR style.
Nice.
Now, I'm not clear if these are still recognized as Meifushin Kaguryu shuriken, or if these were something that were more of a exception and specialty for Danny.
So how tall was Danny?
Danny was a big man. He always said that large shuriken aren't extremely practical because you can't carry as many of them, but they hit with authority, and that's something that you look for in a weapon.
Now, would you explain what these are here?
Yes. So this is a very large kugi, which is a type of nail that would be used in construction of Japanese buildings and even boats in the Edo period and further back. This type of nail, which is very large, very long, very heavy, is the source material for the Kugigata style shuriken of Chishinryu. So if you compare these two together, you can see almost a 1-to-1 scale of where a Chishinryu shuriken would have originated.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had some other nails here earlier. Do you still have those out somewhere? Like,
Yes. Now these are two Edo period nails that were removed from a shrine during construction to fix up the shrine, and modern nails made in the traditional style were added in their place. So these nails that were removed would have also been the source material for various types of shuriken.
and Ken had pointed out earlier that this one has the head is broken off on that one.
Yes. So this head would have been here on this one as well. This was broken off in the removal process. Actually makes it a little bit easier to throw, but with the head on this one, this can also be thrown quite easily in this manner. So we have a lot of shuriken that are referred to as Kugigata or Harigata. So Kugigata shuriken are shuriken that would be designed after nails, where nails would have been the source material. It would have been so much easier in the Edo period for you to grab a set of nails who would have been commonplace at the time, stick them in your obi, draw for shuriken jitsu practice, and when you're throwing them, you're not really losing anything because it's just a nail. Now, same thing with Harigata shuriken, which would be needle style or needle shaped shuriken, which would have been leather punches, needles, and the like. These would have been commonplace at the time. And the reason that they have the shape that they have is because of the function that they originally served before they were utilized as a shuriken.
Mm-hmm. It's we were talking about this earlier in regards to some of the Hotenru ones that I have that we refer to as nage body, nage being throwing and body hati. So hati is needle.
Yes,
So
and when I saw them, I was like, oh, okay.
Although our method for throwing is a little bit different.
Very interesting.
Yes, very different. So, so I showed Ken a little bit about that. So, secret stuff, guys.
These are Edo period nails that were removed from a shrine in Japan.
Okay.
Now, these would traditionally be the source material for a lot of bow shurikens. I have to warn you about this one, because this one tricks me up sometimes. You really have to keep it at a good angle, because it still has the head.
Mhm.
Sometimes it does this.
Ah.
And when it does that, it doesn't want to stick because
Yeah.
it totally affects the flight. So hold it where the head is facing out,
Okay.
not anywhere in.
Okay.
If it slips when it's in, it's not going to stick.
Okay.
So, same thing with this, but this doesn't have the head, so you don't have to worry about that.
Cool.
Really have to adjust your form for that.
Yeah.
But then again, if that's all you ever threw,
Then yeah.
then you would be
Yeah. So I told you I used to practice with just regular nails.
nail
I
to
cut my
nail.
heads off, and I got pretty good with them at one point. But I haven't been
Very
practicing
good.
it for a while now. Sure, I get the harder one.
Isn't that always the way?
Again, just trying to figure out a good angle to
So,
hold it. That seems comfortable to to me.
Yeah.
Because I know how you're doing it, but I'm like, but when I think every time I do it,
It catches-
me like right there.
yeah, see, with me, it either catches me right here or right here and,
Yeah.
and affects the flight. Like,
Yeah.
it flies smoothly,
Yeah.
but this affects the brush.
Mhm.
When I throw it, I keep it as straight as possible. So that when I throw it, definitely the real deal. It's what it would have been used.
Yeah.
But we are totally not used to something with this.
Yeah.
So it is quite a challenge.
Very awkward, that's for sure.
But here, please, if you would like to
Oh.
continue.
This one is the one I want to continue with, because this was like
It's
it's one of those challenging ones where I'm like, okay,
It's
taking me off.
yeah. Now, it may be that they took the heads off of them since it wouldn't have been too difficult to do
Yeah.
so, or that maybe they even bent the head flat so that you just have a little bit extra length,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just have your regular. That was a horrible shot. Hey.
That time I didn't catch on my hand.
Ooh, good. You try and hunt and double. I think it's a little bit too close for hunt and double. There we go.
See, that one caught my thumb again. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, you're very welcome. Very.
Let's take lots of breaks today. Just I'm like I feel myself. Oh man, I need
No,
some
yes, it's
need some air and some water.
yeah. I'm not performing at my best right now, but I'm having fun.
That's what's important. All right, so this is a Japanese nail, and these are some shuriken that look very similar. Now, so these are the shuriken. This is the nail. They look very similar in size, shape. So I'm gonna attempt to throw these for the first time. Thank you. Good high.
How does that feel?
Better than the nails. I do feel like
A specific
I feel like this way
works best for you.
works, like, feels better coming out of my hand
Hmm.
than this way. For some reason feels almost like it's. I know there's no rough edge on it, but it almost feels like if I'm holding it that way, it almost feels like it's like grabbing my hand, whereas this way it feels like it's a smoother release.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm doing it right, so there's a particular way.
Good. So were you adjusting them in your hand for throw?
Yes. Yes, I was.
It's
Kind of where, but I could kind of feel where I thought it felt most comfortable though.
Mhm.
So it's just like as I put it in my hand, like I felt, like okay, that's where
that's
it
the
feels
way
more
that feels the best.
Yeah.
That's the way you should throw. Because with those, really, any way that they face in the palm
Uh-huh.
will work. But whatever works and feels best for you.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an interesting blade because actually try this. Try this. Let me take one of those
Okay.
and give you this
Okay.
and
Thank
interchange them.
Okay. That last one was the nail.
Now, did the nail feel similar to those ones?
Yes, it did.
Mm.
What's interesting, when you practice with an old nail, you feel a lot more imperfections than obviously modern day
Modern day shuriken.
manufactured shuriken.
But this is what the legitimate shuriken of the
Right.
day would have actually felt.
Right, exactly. So I think it's interesting because your grip on it is a little bit different. I think.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Having thrown Edo period nails and the like, when you feel modern made shuriken, they're so smooth.
Mhm.
They slide out of the hand really easily.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's potentially the rough texture of the nails that is what developed the brushing method
Mhm.
in the first place. Feeling the texture
Mhm.
and understanding how that affects the flight.
Mhm.
So I feel that the modern day shuriken being so smooth, there maybe they benefit from having the past masters in the arts, having these rougher blades, that they were able to develop that method of throw
Yeah.
that corrects the
Yeah.
natural tendency to kiten, to throw.
And it's interesting because of course these aren't perfectly straight either.
No.
Compared with the
But they still throw
But they-
as if.
yeah, and I think you're right that having that brushing probably help to smooth out the throw a little bit too, because when you're dealing with an imperfect nail, I think those variations could create like some inaccuracies in your throwing if you're not brushing it.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
So. That was the nail.
I feel almost as if we're going from interview to documentary.
Well, I was sort of thinking last night, like maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of release these over like a period of time rather than just all at once. Depends on how much, like, what they cut it all down. And,
what you ultimately end up with.
Yeah, because it might just be like,
Because I was like, it's like, we're going over a lot of really fine points and details.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you can fit that all into it.
Yeah, I'll make it happen somehow. So that's the nail.
And it felt very similar to
Yeah.
the others.
Yes.
See, in my honest opinion, that is the source material for this particular Reebok. My phone's gonna die already. I have to go get a charger.
Can you talk a little bit about these here? So we've got these different sizes. We've got small, medium, and large.
Yes, these are Meifushin Kaguryu Marubo Shuriken. Now, these were a style of shuriken created by Sumie Sensei, previous soke of the Meifushin Kaguryu. This was a little bit later in his life. This style was created, and these specifically are they can be thrown Jukidaho, but are predominantly thrown in Hanten-daho fashion. They come in a variety of sizes. There isn't a set standard on size for these, but there is a set range in the Meifushin Kaguryu. So this is would be the maximum height and thickness. This would be the minimum length and thickness.
And the positioning, at least for the small ones,
Yes,
or I should say in particular with the small ones, is very specific. It's a bit different than you might be familiar with if you're used to the normal size shuriken.
One of the great things about these is they allow you to throw Hanten-daho from almost any distance. But another great thing about these is they really allow you to test your skill. They're a lot lighter than your typical MSR shuriken.
Mm-hmm.
And they allow you to really focus on your technique, and you have to throw with some strength. So Ryan was actually pretty good with that.
I think there was a compliment in there somewhere as well as a slight.
Oh no, I love Ryan. He knows that.
Now, okay, so you have these other shuriken over here. One has the orange wrapping, and then it has the black. And the black ones are really hard to see on the video here. But would you mind explaining what those are and maybe what the differences are?
These are Nigishiryu shuriken. Nigishiryu is a Koryu school of shuriken jutsu. Their style is very interesting due to the method of throwing and due to the fact that the wrapping, or tail in some instances, is used to help partially stabilize them in flight. Now, the method of throwing Nigishiryu shuriken is different than that of the Meifushin Kaguryu. Although you could throw it Meifushin Kaguryu shuriken in Meifushin Kaguryu style, you wouldn't be taking advantage of these built-in stabilizers that Nigishiryu shuriken have.
Sorry, I'm going to change my view here just to say that a little better. Okay.
So, Nigishiri Shuriken, with their heavy weighted tip and thinner weighted bottoms, have a tendency to fall.
Like that. Throw it on the red mat here so they can see it.
Has a tendency.
Oh, see, it automatically point first,
Exactly. So this is a great advantage.
like a flechette.
Exactly. So this has a great advantage in combat, as your throws. You should always practice your throws. They should always, your skill should always be, paramount. But you need a little bit less skill in a real life situation using a Nigishiri Shuriken. Danny mentions in his book, if that's the case, then one might think that Nigishiri Shuriken are superior to all other types of Shuriken. And in some ways you might think so, but in other ways, not. And let me explain that to you. Danny does a beautiful job of explaining that. It's things that look like this aren't commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to pick up a stick off the ground and it's going to be perfectly balanced so that it will just fall where it would just magically hit the opponent with the pointy end.
Mm-hmm.
Items like Meifushin Kaguryu Shuriken, pen, pencils, nails, these are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to develop the skill to throw these type of items with efficiency, with control, means that you can pick up almost anything and utilize it in a moment where you actually need to use your Shuriken Jutsu skills to create a distraction, to create an opening, to throw, move in, for the takedown, for the striking, for the escaping, whatever the situation may be. These are great weapons. But so would be a pub dart.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw a pub dart and it's going to stick. But you're not walking around with pub darts with you. I hope you're not walking around with shuriken with you in general.
In some states, it's
Frowned
it,
upon.
well, yes. So now, how about the other wrapping that you have on those?
So with the Nigishiri Shuriken, we're getting a little bit into the kuden of the Nigishiryu, so I won't talk too much about that, but let's just say the Shuriken is thinner at this point, which gives a heavier head and a thinner, lighter tail. Much like we have here, with a thicker, heavier head and a thinner, lighter tail to catch the wind. So, Ryan, you had the experience to throw these,
Mm-hmm.
and you noticed that they threw very well,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
You had nary a miss.
Right.
So that's your skill, coupled with the fact that this design is literally designed to be thrown.
Mm-hmm.
Where Meifushin Kaguryu Shuriken, they may seem like they're a little bit harder to gain that skill with. But ultimately, it's more worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth the practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll find things like this. Everywhere you go, pen, pencil,
Mm-hmm.
Knives.
It's
You can
probably easier to go from Meifushin Kaguryu that way to Nagishiryu, right? Than Nagishiryu to Meifushin Kaguryu. I would imagine.
I would imagine.
Or at least at the beginning levels, I would
Yes.
imagine.
I would imagine so. I mean, Nigishiryu even goes so far as to having some shuriken that are designed for close range and some shuriken that are designed for far range. So I've had the opportunity to throw some shuriken Nigishiryu that are designed for far range, and it almost seems like you can't miss, like they fly themselves when you throw them.
That sounds nice.
Right. But when you step closer than their intended range, they don't strike with the point. But if you throw out their intended range and further, point strike every time.
Huh.
And I demonstrated this with my student and fellow Meifushin Kaguryu brother Leo, where I threw from about 30 feet with one of these type of shuriken, and it hit with the point, and it was amazing. It's like, no, it's not. It's designed for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really less of a skill on my part. My skill was that I hit the target.
Yeah.
And again, you might think that's a wonderful thing. Why should I bother with any other? Every other school of Shuriken Jutsu is obsolete. It's not true. It's the hard-won skills that are going to serve you best.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first question I want to ask is, who is Danny Fletcher? But before I let you speak on him, I just want everyone out there who may not have heard of him. So Meishu Shinkagyu practitioners, a lot of them have already heard of Danny Fletcher, but there may be some newer students out there who hasn't heard of him. So Ken knew him intimately, and so I would like for Ken to tell us who Danny Fletcher was.
It'd be my honor. Danny Fletcher was the original Westerner in the Meifushin Kaguryu. Danny had a dream and a passion for Budo, and he traveled to Japan in order to fulfill that dream. He trained in Bujinkan, he trained in Kyudo, and of course, Meifushin Kaguryu. Back before anyone here in the Western world had ever heard of Meifushin Kaguryu, Danny was practicing, training very, very hard, and overcoming a language barrier with Soke.
We all owe a lot to
We
Danny.
all owe. It is not an understatement to say that Meifushin Kaguryu in the Western world today is in no small part due to the hard work of our dear friend Danny Fletcher. Danny was more than a teacher to me. He was a friend and a mentor. And the inspiration that he gave me to continue my training, even when my training with him at first was just through, conversations and videos that he would send me as he was still living in Japan. I was a 15-year-old kid reaching out to him, probably annoying him. Looking back at it, every day I was emailing him, and he was probably, who's this Ken Smith who keeps messaging me every day. But we developed a wonderful friendship over that, and he could see my passion, my love for the art. Danny was a wonderful friend, and he spread Shuriken Jutsu everywhere he went. Everyone who has ever met Danny has a story of being either introduced to Shuriken Jutsu or introduced to a new angle of Shuriken Jutsu or a new concept of Shuriken Jutsu, because that's what he loved to talk about. It was truly within him. It was truly a passion for him.
In fact, not only was it a passion, but he wrote a book.
Yes, and I highly recommend. In fact, because I'm still in touch with the Fletcher family, I told them, every student who ever comes to train with me, mandatory reading will be Danny Fletcher's book, and that's Japanese Throwing Weapons by Daniel Fletcher.
And Otsuka Sensei does the foreword on the book, by the way, if you haven't read it.
Yes. It's an absolutely wonderful starting point for any student in Meifushin Kaguryu.
Mm-hmm.
I've been studying Shuriken Jutsu since I was 15, 16 years old, under Danny's tutelage. And I still flip through the book quite often and hear Danny's voice in my head. Different aspects, different things that he's told me. It's a wonderful, wonderful guide that I don't think any MSR member should be without.
And you notice that we're talking about Danny Fletcher in the past tense.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, Danny is no longer with us. But Ken, being very close to Danny, I'd like for Ken to maybe talk a little bit about that if you feel comfortable with it.
Yes. talking about Danny it's an honor. He brought so much into my life. He was truly a mentor in every sense of the word. Danny struggled with his illness, but he never let it get him down. And in fact, I'm known for having the first Meifu Shinkaguryu branch in the Western world, in North America. But that's only because Danny didn't open his branch when he did, because his struggle with his illness made him want to live his life. And I think that's a great, a great message for us all. He wanted to live his life. He did Budo. He accomplished what he set out to do. And in the later years of his life, he pursued acting. And it made him happy and it fulfilled him again. And I think that is truly another lesson from Danny to all of us, is to live your life, to keep reaching for those new goals. Danny held the first seminar in America, Meifu Shinkaguryu. There was about 2 students that attended. Again, nobody knew Meifu Shinkaguryu at the time.
It's like my students now.
But, and he had Soke stay over at his house with him. Soke slept in Danny's house for the seminar. Danny was the trail setter for the Meifu Shinkaguryu. And I am honored to continue on his teachings, his legacy in the Meifu Shinkaguryu in North America. It's an honor. And I can't say enough. I owe it all to my friendship and mentoring from Danny Fletcher.
Well, and I want to say, for me, personally, that this has been one of my highlights for my time in Meifu Shinkaguryu, to spend time and meeting Ken finally in person.
Thank you.
You know, I've kind of, I know of Danny Fletcher. I didn't meet him personally, but I knew of Danny Fletcher, and you know, certainly he's one of the reasons why I'm training. And you know, and I had always wanted to have the opportunity to train with someone who was there with Danny, and I knew that Ken was the guy to go to. So if you're in the U.S. and you want to know authentic Meifu Shinkaguryu, or probably anywhere in North America, honestly, because Ken's been doing it longer than any of us, you know, you should take a trip. He's a little bit hard to find. I'm not gonna lie, but Ken is a great host, and
thank you very much.
I appreciate everything that I've learned from him today, and just our conversations, and
I hope I wasn't too hard on you.
So, a couple stabs in the heart is all. But you know, I feel, I definitely feel Danny flowing through you, and I appreciate.
That is a wonderful compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. But this is actually one of the first prints of Danny's book.
Oh, so show it to the camera.
No, yeah, this is Danny's book, Japanese Throwing Weapons, an absolute must-read for every member of the Meifu Shinkaguryu. And this one is one of the first prints of the book, and this one's actually signed to me.
Very nice.
By Danny, as you can see.
Oh, nice. I actually brought my version, so I've got it off screen here, but my version of the book, which is more recent print, I'm sure. I won't crease it or anything, but this is Danny's signature here inside of Ken's book. That's awesome. That is awesome.
And you can read for the camera what he had wrote.
So he says, "Dear Ken, thank you, and have many years of good Budo, Danny Fletcher. And then he has Danny written in, so he has it written in English first, Danny Fletcher, and then he has Danny written in katakana next to it. That's very cool. That is very cool.
It's one of my personal treasures.
That is very cool. So again, Japanese throwing weapons. If you don't have it, get it.
Yes. I believe the proceeds are still going to Danny's family. So please help support Danny's work.
And then you said you have a couple
Oh yes.
DVDs.
Uh,
So actually, sorry. So inside the book, there is a DVD that comes with the book, too. By the way.
Yes.
So if you haven't gotten the book, there is a DVD that comes with it.
and the DVD goes over many of the fundamentals of Meifushin Kaguryu, many of the fundamentals of Shuriken Jutsu, as a whole.
Mhm.
So this is a wonderful starting point
Mhm.
for people who are interested in Meifushin Kaguryu. Maybe they're not 100% sure what it's all about. Picking up this book give them a good introduction,
Mhm.
and then when you do seek out someone like myself or Ryan or Soke, you will have a better understanding of what the Meifushin Kaguryu entails, what it teaches.
Mhm.
One of the things he doesn't address in this book is the Fundo Kusari, which is another weapon that is a specialty of Meifushin Kaguryu. But as far as Shuriken Jutsu goes, I can't recommend it enough. And not just because he was my friend, but because of the information that you'll find within.
Yeah, there's a lot of very good quality information. It's funny. Last night, when I arrived here at our undisclosed location,
I keep it mysterious.
it was hiking through many hours of wilderness to get here. Trust me.
To get to this big burly Bigfoot man.
So while I was camping in my tent, I pulled out my copy of Danny Fletcher's book and was reading by flashlight.
By flashlight. Is there any other way?
And there was a lot of good information that I found on last night, and this is
A
after.
great refresher.
Yeah, even after many years of training, and I say many years compared with some people, but that's certainly not as many years as others.
Thank you.
And but there was some very good information in there, and made me rethink about a few things and some things that we've already discussed today on our own. But
Yes.
please give it a look. So there's a DVD that comes with the book, and
Well, these are actually a couple of the DVDs that Danny had sent me when he was still living in Japan. And I was that annoying kid bugging him, eager to learn, eager to discover true, authentic Shuriken Jutsu. As you can see, this one's Shuriken Jutsu number 3 and Shuriken Jutsu number 4. A lot of the techniques that were recorded on these early DVDs ended up becoming some of the clips that he would later feature on the DVD within his book. So a lot of these are the same exact. A lot of the information in this DVD and his book is some of the very same information that he was giving me back when I was 16 years old, starting off on my Shuriken Jutsu journey. So look how far it took me. Buy it now.
it's soon going to be sold out on Amazon. Trust us, none of the money's going to us.
Yeah. I know. It sounds like we're getting a cut or something.
Yeah. we get none of this.
No. The Fletcher family.
Yes.
I still am very in close contact with the Fletcher family. They actually, his sister Robin calls me her brother in California. I'm her California brother. One of the greatest compliments she had ever given me actually is she said, "You remind me so much of Danny." And then I'm just like, yeah. And I think we share that passion for Budo.
Yeah.
And not just Budo, Danny was a passionate person. He lived life, and he lived life to his fullest. He was taken far too soon, but he truly lived life, and I take solace in that.
And pick him up just because with them being on the black map, they're a little bit hard to see. So I'm gonna just try to zoom in a little bit. Okay.
These are the last sets of shuriken that Danny Fletcher owned. You will notice these Meifushin Kaguryu shuriken are the ones that he uses in his book in the beginning when he's demonstrating Shomanuchi. And these are Danny Fletcher's Uchibai, used predominantly in Togakuryu. Also, you see this style of shuriken in Sugino line of Katori Shintoryu. These were given to me by Danny's mother and sister after his passing, and they hold a great deal of sentimental value for me.
I want you to show.
The difference between.
Well, not just that, but would you mind showing us the Danny-ken?
Yeah. Okay, so this is extremely special, and this is the last remaining Fletcher Ken.
Oh, Fletcher Ken. That's right. Fletcher Ken.
This is the last remaining Fletcher Ken. One of the wonderful things about Danny is that he loved the arts so much that he loved to actually craft his own tools. So when he was creating this shuriken specifically, he was going for a Chishinryu style shuriken. But he ended up showing this to Soke, and
Can you put that in your hand next to a regular Meifushin Kaguryu shuriken so that people can judge the size difference here?
yes, this is a very large shuriken. If you can see that.
Yes. See how thick that is in comparison, and heavy.
Yes. So Danny was he was trying to craft a Chishinryu shuriken, and this was his end result. However, Soke saw this, and no. That's not a Chishinryu. But they fly very well in both Hanten Daho and GP Daho. So Soke began calling them Fletcher Ken, after the man himself, after Danny. And this is the last Fletcher Ken that we know of. This was also gifted to me by the Fletcher family after Danny's passing. And it is a beast of a
It has some weight behind it, that's for sure.
Yes. Very, very, very few people, besides myself and Danny, have had the ability to throw this, had the opportunity to throw this shuriken. But those who do can attest to the power of Danny's craftsmanship and the power of this shuriken. So.
Mm-hmm.
His illness is one of the main reasons he moved back to the States full time, so that he could seek out treatment. It had seemed that he had conquered it for a long while, and that's when he started looking into acting. He was actually filming. He was actually filming for a spot in a mockumentary Bigfoot encounter as like this Bigfoot witness.
And I'm this is hilarious because like when I finally spoke to Ken on the phone, like I made some comment about how I felt like I was speaking with a Bigfoot or Loch Ness monster.
This mythical beast.
Mythical beast, because he's so hard to get in touch with. So that's hilarious.
The best training is training that you seek out and continue to seek out until you achieve it.
Exactly.
then again, his passing isn't something that I try to focus a lot on.
Sure, sure.
To be honest, I still will train when I'm by myself in here, and I will still think to him, or think in my mind back to his lessons, almost as if I'm still reaching for those answers.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, it's a way of coping.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to focus on his year of passing. I will say, however, that God bless Robin, his sister. She's not Fletcher anymore. She's married. But God bless her. Yes, yes. God bless her, because I was speaking to her when Danny was moved into hospice, and she relayed my final message to Danny, and that was to tell him thank you for everything he did for me, everything he had given me, and just for being there for me, this kind of loner kid who outcast, wanting to learn martial arts and everything, no way of getting to Japan and all these fantastical places in my young head, but he brought that to me.
Yeah.
And he accepted me, and being accepted by someone, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And that's one of the things, to bring it back to Meifu Shinkageryu, is I love the Meifu Shinkageryu because we're a family. We really are. We are accepting of one another, and we're rooting for each other. My friend Randall, if you're watching this, I love you. Matt Hurlbert, I love you. All of you guys that I've spoken to, that I'm not so much online anymore, social networking. I love and miss you all. You are all my brothers and friends. And I hope you're watching this and know that I haven't forgotten about you guys.
So if you haven't noticed, this is something Ken and I talked about a little bit. Neither one of us are very much social butterflies.
We're the wallflowers of Shinkageryu.
It's not comfortable, I don't think, for either one of us to be known as, I guess, like the leader of Arizona Meifu Shinkageryu, or the leader of. It has such a weighty title to it.
Well, for the longest time, I was the only
Meifu Shinkageryu in North America.
And that was quite. I stood up to the challenge, but it is quite an intimidating thing to say, and it sounds like you're tooting your own horn.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been told by students of mine that I'm too humble.
Yes.
But
I'll concur with that.
I believe in living a humble life.
Yeah.
And I may not be out there every day posting a new YouTube video showing off shuriken jutsu or Meifu Shinkageryu skills. But what I hope that you will take away from this is the true nature of Budo, of self-improvement, of supporting your fellow brothers and sisters in the art. And to get out there and train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, there's so many McDojos out there nowadays, and there's very much this effort to, commercialize everything. And
Far too much commercialization, and dumbing down of martial arts by making them a sport or a something where you're scoring points or something, as opposed to self-improvement and development of skill. When we're competing with one another, we're no longer supporting one another and building each other up.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are, I am better than you because I'm this ranked or this ranked. That doesn't matter. Be better than yourself yesterday.
What's interesting today is all day we spent teaching each other.
Yes.
There wasn't a pecking order. It was very much he showed me. We just went back and forth, and talked about the commonalities and just different interesting key points where he heard Otsuka Sensei say something like this on this day, and I heard him say something else on a different day.
Or
And-
Danny said something like this that
Right.
Soke told him on another day.
and these are all interesting things, and they're not necessarily
Neither of the views are wrong.
right.
It's an evolution.
Exactly.
It's an evolution, and
And Sensei is evolving as anyone who saw my Arizona Matsuri video last month when we interviewed Otsuka Sensei. He referred to that he's evolving and improving himself, and so where you jump into the stream of knowledge, you're going to pick up different things and
let me
hear
just say this.
different pieces.
Yes, I completely agree. And let me just say this about Soke. Soke has blown me away with his growth in the language of English. When I first met Soke, I was mostly talking to him through a translator that was with him, that was traveling with him. But a couple of years later, when I saw him again in Chicago, he said, "Ken-san!" He came and he hugged me, and I was like, "Oh."
Is
I hugged
Ken-san technically English though?
but we were able to have like a whole conversation in
Yes.
English with very few times where I would have to choose another word
Yeah.
that maybe he better understood.
Yeah.
And I was blown away at his amazing growth.
Yeah.
And that's something to aspire to.
Well, and I was telling Ken earlier that I've only ever known Sensei with speaking English,
Oh yes.
and
We were speaking of that earlier.
so Ken's Ken explaining this to me earlier was interesting because I've only understood Otsuka Sensei as having spoken English. But what's funny is the very first time that I reached out to him by email, I had crafted this very well thought out email in Japanese. Had my wife make sure that I was being polite in the way that I phrased things, and then he responded back in English, and I was like,
Yes.
but
Otsuka
Otsuka Sensei
is very approachable.
Yes, I was
Soke
about
is
to say the
very
exact
approachable.
same thing. Otsuka Sensei is just the greatest. If you don't train Meifushi Kaido and have thought about it, Otsuka Sensei is the best. And just
Don't be afraid to send him a message and reach out.
right. And I think Otsuka Sensei, he's very interesting in. He's different than some of the other teachers out there, but he's very approachable. And I think you'll find that he's very open to Westerners.
Yes.
He wants to share this art with others, and he, as much as he wants to share it too, we want to make sure that we're doing things the right sort of way. So that's part of where our conversation has taken us today, is just making sure that we're training the right sort of way, and hopefully maintaining that sort of respect that we got when we started.
I totally agree with you.
So
I totally agree. One of the beautiful things about Meifushi Kaguryu is it's not a competitive sport. It's Budo. You're developing yourself, and you're helping your fellow brothers and sisters in Budo, and you're helping each other grow, and that's why the MSR is a family. And you get out of it what you put into it.
And something that Ken and I were talking about earlier is that this is Ken and I were able to connect very early on today. So this is our first time actually meeting in person.
Yes.
Although we've communicated by email
Numerous times in the past.
for many years. But
And Christmas cards.
yes. So Meifushi Kaido though is not it's not competitive, and we don't think it should be competitive.
No.
In fact, it's very much helping each other out, and so that was something that I always appreciate when I would go into the dojo, either the Hombu dojo in with Otsuka Sensei, or in Osaka, and there was no competition. There was no pecking order necessarily. Of
Nor
course, there's
should
Soke
there
up
be.
here, but everyone else is.
Well, of course, Soke. Everybody's below Soke.
Yeah, and so I appreciated that. Even being the new guy, there was no like, okay, the new guy, he throws last, and he throws when we're all done. It wasn't like that. It's like everyone rotates through. Everyone's there to help each other out. When a shuriken goes missing, everyone goes looks for it. When the dojo's when it's time to clean up, everyone cleans it. It's just a family type environment, and that's something that I've always appreciated about Meifushin Kagyu.
It's something that has really stood out to me in the world of martial arts, especially as a Westerner. I've done various martial arts. I've done karate, taekwondo, Muay Thai. A lot of different arts, and none of them really felt like a family, like the Meifushin Kagyu has. And I think Soke, and I especially thank Danny for giving me the opportunity to really become part of this family. Because when I trained with Danny, when I first started training with Danny, when I first started talking to Danny, I was about 15. And I must have been this annoying kid messaging him. It's like, oh my god, nobody knew about Meifushin Kagyu at the time. Nobody. Like, in the Western world, that name had never been brought up. So, giving the opportunity to take part in this art, and to continue its growth, even after the tragic loss of Danny. Danny was more than a teacher to me. He was a friend, he was a mentor, and I loved him like a brother. And he knew that. And even though I never told him that, his sister, after his passing, and I was talking to his sister, I told her that, and she said, Ken, he knew. And I was like, how did he put up with me all these years? But that's the beauty of the Meifushin Kagyu. No pecking order. It doesn't matter what rank you hold. It truly matters your individual growth, the growth of your brothers and sisters in the MSR, and just enjoying Budo together.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to share everything that we talked about off camera, but I know that that Danny is happy with where you've taken Meifushin Kagyu, and I'm hopeful that you'll continue to do good things in Meifushin Kagyu, because I think we all need it here in North America. It's not like there aren't dojo on every corner.
Unfortunately.
So there are so few of us, and it's important for us to be able to rely on each other and
yes, the Meifushin Kagyu is a family, and that is paramount.
Yeah.